Walking down this sidewalk, you might occasionally notice someone slipping into the door off the alley. Other than those quick visits, no one else really goes in or comes out of here though. There's certainly no one living or working here full time. But why would a decent building on a prominent Chicago lot just sit empty? Well, because it's not actually a regular building. This is a substation. You might think of it like a building-shaped switchboard powering this entire north side neighborhood of Chicago. And that periodic visitor, it's just checking in to make sure that things are running smoothly. Because buildings like this have extremely important jobs. Inside are two huge transformers. These are kept some distance apart in case one overheats or catches fire. Thick copper bars connect them, channeling immense amounts of electricity. Then there's all the other gear, circuit breakers, safety relays, control panels, and monitoring systems that make sure that nothing goes wrong. There are batteries and heavy-duty switches tucked away safely on a separate floor even. From the outside, you'd never guess any of that is going on in the inside. That's exactly how the city and the power company wants it. If you look closely though, there are some subtle giveaways. The inspector, they didn't enter through the front door. That's because the front door, it's not even a door. And the windows, they're not windows at all, just dark metal grates. Transformers, even efficient ones, lose enough heat to power 2,000 homes. And that heat needs to escape somehow. Substations take dangerously high voltage electricity from distant power plants and then lower it to a safe level for your home. High voltage travels efficiently, but would just blow out appliances instantly or be fatal in the event of a short. That's why substations have to be close to neighborhoods. Their jobs are tied to being close by. And they're everywhere, all around the city. Similar buildings quietly house critical infrastructure. Telephone and data hubs, pump stations, chilling stations, bridge control centers. They're all disguised so well as regular old buildings that you probably never notice them. But is that really the best way to handle critical infrastructure like this? Compare that first example to walking down Michigan Avenue, where you'll pass by the famous water tower. It was designed in the 1800s. It looks like a medieval castle. Fresh water was pulled in from Lake Michigan using the pump house across the street. The pipe helped regulate pressure buildups in the overall system. It didn't have to look grand. It could have just been a pipe. But back then, cities showed off technical triumphs like this that make everyone's lives better. It was a way of saying, look how modern we are. Not only that, it helped everyone appreciate the monumental scale of these kinds of endeavors. That's what's called the industrial sublime, turning functional infrastructure into a prominent, large-scale display. Early substations, too, were once seen as prime opportunities for memorable structures like this. One of the more notable here in Chicago is this Art Deco example. With its grand doorway and 3 stories of basements hidden underneath the street, this small limestone and granite building was inserted among theaters and office buildings. And its architecture is hiding the gritty equipment inside of an elegant shell. The Spirit electricity sculpture is framed on the front by other Art Deco framing and motifs, and the contemporary press applauded the effort. ComEd had a policy of designing utility buildings to, quote, conform to the appearance of their environs, even claiming these structures became, quote, beautiful spots in the community. Architects, they love these projects too. They could experiment and make something iconic because the building didn't need to serve traditional functions. Plus, the nicer materials that they tended to use meant less maintenance down the road. But something has shifted since then. Now we hide infrastructure, disguising it as everyday buildings so that when we're walking down the street, you would never ever notice. And this architectural disguise is essentially a kind of camouflage. It doesn't exactly resemble the military camouflage that we're familiar with, but the principle, it's almost the same. Military camouflage uses spectral analysis of target environments to determine a palette of colors. And they include lighter and darker versions of the same hues to mimic shadows and incorporate other 3D cues that make discerning the actual shape of something more difficult. The characteristic blobs, they're meant to mimic foliage and rocks or terrain. And the overall arrangement creates patterns at multiple scales. Small shapes blend with fine details, while larger shapes disrupt the outline at a distance. The soldier doesn't disappear, but blends seamlessly in with the surroundings. In a broader sense, though, camouflage has 2 critical characteristics. First, it's superficial. It's just a thin veneer that doesn't alter the fundamental nature of what it's hiding. In the military example, it's clothing or paint. Second, the ultimate goal of camouflage is to blend the subject into their surroundings, making it difficult to distinguish the figure from its background. So how is that applied here? Well, all the fake buildings and windows are purely superficial, so you can't pick them out as anything unique. And I see this disguise like Bill sees Superman or Beatrix Kiddo.
What Kent wears, the glasses, the business suit, that's the costume. That's the costume Superman wears to blend in with us.
Just as Superman camouflages himself as the meek, mild-mannered Clark Kent, our cities disguise critical infrastructure as ordinary buildings. This approach miniaturizes and domesticates the industrial sublime. Rather than celebrating or confronting powerful infrastructure, it's hidden. That decision is made because we let our anxieties win. There are even weirdo conspiracies out there that these things will cause cancer if you live near one, and that just makes them seem even more scary. Or concerns about vandalism and real estate values, neighborhood aesthetic, and public comfort have taken over, and I think that's a shame. They also equate safety with conformity. By looking like everything else, they just won't become problematic. So if Clark Kent's weakness is Superman's critique of humanity, then camouflage substations are a critique of our architecture and our society. The insincere attempts to blend them in shows just how inconsequential the urban fabric is understood. It's telling how these fake buildings fixate on points of access, like doors and windows. These are places where people or light would normally enter the building. The very parts that are supposed to be transparent and open are the parts that don't work at all. They cloak functionality in fiction. And it's clear that we want the benefits of machinery and technology without acknowledging their physical presence in the city, a city free from the clutter of visible infrastructure. Ideally, electricity just magically appears at our wall outlet. But there are some real problems with this trend. The physical disguise contributes to the out-of-sight, out-of-mind phenomena, where people only notice infrastructure when something goes wrong.
It can't happen here? Well, it did. The elaborate power grid supplying electricity to parts of 9 northeastern states and Canada failed.
When things break, it seems like a mysterious act of nature, rather than a preventable failure of aging or outdated equipment.
We only have 14 houses on my block, and 3 of us now have generators because the power goes out so much.
If people never see the substations, the pipes, or plants, they undervalue the complexity and the investment that's required to keep the city running. And this breeds complacency and a disconnection with public understanding. It places these crucial systems into the hands of specialists who are out of the public eye. The city becomes a sort of stage set where the true backstage, or the infrastructure, is accessible only to authorized personnel.
Of course, 48 hours ago, the official position of the power industry was that the kind of blackout we had yesterday was not possible.
Philosopher Bruno Latour once mused that modern cities are like modern temples, in which technology is worshipped behind closed doors that only priests, or in this case engineers, enter, while everyone else just trusts that the lights will stay on. But it doesn't have to be this way. The substation that we've been looking at has a really interesting story. It wasn't actually the first substation to occupy this site. The original was designed in the early 1900s by Hullabird and Root and sat on the block alone for decades. That is until architect Stanley Tigerman was commissioned to design the Hard Rock Cafe next door in the early 1980s. Tigerman paid tribute to the original building, drawing specific relationships like maintaining the height of the cornice line, as well as incorporating its arches and columns and trim details. But then came a surprise to Tigerman. The substation had to be rebuilt. Tigerman, realizing that his cafe would look pretty silly referencing something that actually doesn't exist anymore, he jumped at the chance to design the new substation too. But Tigerman, he took it further this time. Instead of faking the details with cheap materials, he went all in. He built the substation like a real Tuscan Georgian building, complete with the solid stone carvings, a beautifully laid brickwork, and the genuine architectural details you'd expect on a fancy historic building, not a power station. And this one even won an award in 1990 just for the quality of the brickwork. Tigerman Substation, it's not trying to hide. It's almost showing off. While others wear a disguise, this one announces itself as important infrastructure. But infrastructure has even more possibilities than this even. I mean, what if there were opportunities to create new kinds of buildings with new public programs that wouldn't be practical otherwise? I'm thinking of examples like the NL Architects and their heat transfer station in Utrecht. It basically wraps the building in a waterproof polyurethane skin that's filled with opportunities for people to engage with it. It holds a basketball hoop that doubles as a window, it has climbing handles for people to scale up, and it has a reverse peephole so that people can get a glimpse of everything that's happening inside. And all these make it a fun place to just hang out and do stuff. While at the same time, it's durable, and it offers a connection with the power station instead of hiding it. Because when it's hidden, there's no way for us to know its true costs. How could we lobby for improvement or invest wisely in systems that we can't see or even understand? As the saying goes, sometimes hiding something actually makes it more powerful. By cloaking substations and critical systems and facades, we can make them seem mysterious or even ominous. You should know where your power, your water, and your data comes from and how they get to your door. Otherwise, we're in the dark, so to say, and at the mercy of abstract and almost magical seeming entities rather than the real, physical, aging equipment that it actually is.
Because you can't tell just from the outside if something's well built, which is kind of what my next video goes into, when a beautiful old building that everyone just felt safe inside of turned out to be a deadly fire trap. In fact, this disaster sparked a complete overhaul of the US school safety system and made fire drills mandatory. It's another incredible story rooted right here in Chicago, and the video is available right now, 3 weeks before YouTube, on Nebula. In fact, if you only catch me here on YouTube, you're missing out on a ton of stuff, like building tours and a behind-the-scenes look at my new studio that are only available on Nebula. But it's not just my videos. Nebula is powered by over 200 creators, including Not Just Bikes, City Nerd, and Real Engineering, making it one of the most innovative streaming platforms out there. By pooling our resources, we can push each other to create even better, more ambitious projects. Some of the best content on Nebula actually comes from our original productions, where bigger budgets let us experiment with brand new ideas. For example, check out Neo's Underexposure. I think it's some of the most compelling documentary storytelling that's out there right now. Nebula offers flexible subscription plans, monthly, annual, and yes, even a lifetime option. That means that you can pay once and have access to everything that Nebula creates forever. So start catching that exclusive look into our next video by clicking on the link on the screen or in the description and scan the QR code. You'll save 40% off of your Nebula subscription with my link and never miss a video again. And it will only cost $3 a month when you sign up for a year. Plus, you'll be right at the heart of the media movement that's changing how creators and audiences connect. Check it out, and as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you over on Nebula.